Praise be to Slaanesh, for his rapture is upon your worthless souls. Long shall be your suffering, joyous your pain. Welcome back to Total War Warhammer. I am Floppy McDickbutt Pride, and the cultists of Slaanesh are on a quest for pain and pleasure in the name of their dark prince. The utterly vain and evil Mirror Guard accompany the Horde into the heat of battle, and at the helm of the army, who else but the beautiful, the eternal Sigvald the Magnificent, the ultimate narcissist and champion of the Lord of Delight, wielding Sliver Slash and wearing the Auric armor. This is a 2v2 against the Chaos Dwarfs of Zharr Naggrund, the Dawi Zharr, and we are using Addo's Slaanesh reskin, which is absolutely beautiful work, and honestly the best Chaos reskin mod I've seen on the workshop. Doesn't add any new units or change any stats, but it does make Sigvald's cultists look like true followers of the Dark Prince. And if you're gonna play with Sigvald, you best be rocking with a fabulous looking army. Everything gets a new color palette. Even the Gorebeasts and pretty much every Chaos Warrior and Chosen variant get marked by Slaanesh on their shields and on their chests. So there are some absolutely gorgeous looking models in these reskin, and he's done in one for Slaanesh, for Khorne, for Tzeentch, and for Nurgle. So I'll definitely be doing some more gameplay with those reskin mods just to give us a little bit of visual variety. So across from the impact crater on Warpstone Mine stand the Dawi Zharr, getting their hill camp on with Warmaster Taur'ruk the Bull Centaur and Rykarth the Unbreakable leading their army. Lots of armor piercing on the field, Chaos Dwarfs with great weapons, Infernal Guard long shots. Deathstreaker rocket batteries are also on the field, some long-range artillery for the Dawi Zharr, and more Infernal Guard near the top of the hill, so dislodging them from this great defensive position might prove pretty challenging. Dreadquake Mortar is also on the field, already opening fire from that ridiculous 540 range. See what kind of havoc it can unleash alongside those Deathstreakers, which are trying to go for my Chaos Fire Sorcerer. They are going to miss their shot, and here we go. Make an impact, shockwave rippling outwards, and sending a bunch of Marauders to an early grave. So satisfying to watch that. Killed 34, I think, in that first shot. So Chaos will for sure be looking to get into melee as soon as possible and inside the safety of that minimum fire arc to mitigate that damage output. Let the Dreadquake fire for too long, and you're gonna have a bad day. Hobgoblin Wolf Riders were Vanguard deployed in this forest. They thought they were hidden, but I saw them as soon as the battle started and have essentially pinned them up against the red line without much room to maneuver. So Chaos Knights and Direwolves should see them off, make short work of them, and they will rout off the field. Kind of unlucky, honestly, because they would have rallied otherwise, but that's the danger of putting low morale units near the borders of the map. Those frontline Chaos units are getting shredded by the Deathstreakers at the moment. And there's also a big front line of Black Orc slaves. I know a lot of you guys wanted to see these bad boys in action. They're pretty cheap, but they're nowhere near as powerful as the Black Orcs for the Greenskins. Much less armor, much less melee attack. They are slaves, so they're obviously not as treated as well as the elites of the Greenskin armies. Another Dreadquake shot going off. Gojira not even attempting to dodge it, and his Marauder front line is paying the price here while his Chaos Warriors are picked apart by direct fire artillery from the hilltop. Honestly, this map is beautiful for Chaos Dwarfs. They have a nice hill to sit on. It's big, which means the artillery has a ton of time to fire. And there's also some impassable terrain in the middle of the ravine that makes units get more blobbed up and slowed down when trying to rush across the battlefield. So definitely feeling a bit bad for Gojira right now. One of us was going to be taking our artillery pounding on the way in, and in this case, it's him, thankfully. But that just means Sigvald's finest will be making it into melee unscathed and ready to rip some Chaos Stunties in half once we can get our weapons up on top of them. Now, my Fire Sorcerer letting it rip with an Overcast Fireball. If that hits, it will destroy the mortar in a single shot, but it actually moved out of the way just in time. I'm not sure if that was intentional or not, but either way, that is a huge dodge because it should be able to continue firing now, and long shots are still pouring in the fire as well. And we're finally about ready to close into melee. Marauders about to reach the front line of Black Orc and Hobgoblin or Goblin slaves. I guess those are Goblin slaves. The Hobgoblins aren't slaves. They're more servants of the Dawi Zharr. There's also a Hobgoblin Khan here, buffing up the morale, kind of like a Goblin Big Boss, to keep those frontline slaves in the fight. Dragon Ogre Shaggoth on the left flank, engaging some of those slaves. And Infernal Guard long shots with some great firing angles while my Gorebeast Chariot and Chaos Knight charge home. Really deep formation of Chaos Dwarfs receiving the charge though. which is exactly what you want. Might be able to bog them down and put the hurt on the chariot with those great weapons. Chaos Knights got a really nice charge off into the front ranks, and I've actually made a micro mistake here with Sigvald. I'll show that in a second, but the Shaggoth is charging through those Infernal Guard into the back lines, maybe going for the Dreadquake, we'll see in a second. But Sigvald, I have mismicroed, and he's now sitting here. I meant to go after the Infernal Guard, and he's taking a lot of shots, and if he goes down early, this is going to be terrible news for my Slaaneshi host. Gotta get him out of there really quick. Thankfully, he does have a lot of regeneration with the auric armor, so it's not a big deal as long as I get him out of melee there, but that was definitely a bad micro mistake. Gorebeast Chariots have broken through, and the Chaos Knights are now running roughshod in the back lines, trying to tie down all these Infernal Guard long shots. They're going to be super annoying, can do so much damage to my Chaos Warriors, so really need to get them off the field. I am breaking through the slave front lines relatively easily. We're going to put it in slow-mo just a second here as we overview the battlefield and look at what is happening. So the Shaggoths are doing a good job of tying down a lot of units, tying down some ranged units as well, making sure they don't fire, and the Chaos Dragon has landed in the middle of a bunch of Dawi Zharr, and my Chaos Gorebeast Chariot and the Chaos Knights are definitely making a big impact here. Beautiful charge from the Gorebeast. Shaggoth from Gorebeast coming over to help me in my engagement over on my side. And as long as I keep those chariots moving, I will continuously be able to charge over and over again. Got a beautiful hammer and anvil off into the back of those Black Orc slaves. And it looks like Pit of Shade just went off as well. That's a perfect spell to demolish a blob of high mass troops. Infernal Guard being torn asunder and sent to the Netherrealm. Very nice move from Gojira. Used the Shaggoth to make all those units collapse in and around that single entity model, and then you can blast it apart with an accurate vortex like Pit of Shades. Very nice move there. So almost nothing has been done to counter the Gorebeast Chariot. It is now rampaging through the center of the Dawi Zharr lines. Chaos Dwarfs don't have a lot of infantry that are good for dealing with chariots. They do have the Immortals, but they can't really tie them down. If they get bogged down, the armor piercing from like the Immortals and the Infernal Guard would be enough, but they lack halberds and bonus first large on foot. But they do have Bull Centaur renders that would have been a great choice here, I think. They have the mass to tie down chariots and keep them from moving, while their AP and bonus first large goes to work. So probably a mistake to skip out on the Bull Centaurs in this one, and the Gorebeast is definitely punishing that choice heavily, moving through these lines with impunity. Sigvald going to work on a Hobgoblin Khan, finished him off very quickly. He's going to break, and that should lead to the collapse of the slaves here. The long shots are trying to get some shots on Sigvald, trying to take him down, but he has regenerated a lot of his HP. Now the Shaggoth and the Gorebeast Chariot are trying to ascend the hill and get at those armor-piercing long shots who have been causing a lot of havoc, shooting for much of this battle. And now the Gorebeast are into melee, and that is just a nightmare for those Infernal Guard. They will be ripped apart by that Gorebeast, and it's going to continue charging into stuff, continuing to tie things down, continuing to get some massive hammer and anvils and charges off. And I don't know if the Dawi Zharr have enough on the field to actually counter it. They still have Warmaster Taur'ruk, who is in the central engagement, but a single entity model probably not enough to tie down an entire group of chariots. It's like Rykarth the Unbreakable in the center of a bunch of units. He has 130 armor, which is pretty insane, and he is unbreakable as his name would imply. So killing him is going to be difficult, but Sigvald might be able to duel him down. We'll see. And the Gorebeast continuing to charge into stuff, continuing to wreak havoc on the battlefield. And it is so much fun to use in these situations where it hasn't been countered properly, where your opponents... Sometimes you don't expect to see a Gorebeast Chariot on the field, or chariots in general, because they're not used that often. But against the Dwarfs, and against the Chaos Dwarfs, if they don't bring Bull Centaurs or other units that have the mass to tie them down and finish them off, maybe a Kadai Destroyer would also be a pretty good unit against the Chariot. But without those things, there's not a whole lot that the infantry can do to tie them down. And these Chaos Knights and the Gorebeast Chariot are having a field day here. Just unanswered charges over and over again. And that is going to lead to some insane kill counts. Don't know if the Chaos Dwarfs can come back from this one. They're in a pretty bad spot right now. They do have all their heroes and lords still alive, except for that Hobgoblin Khan that got routed by Sigvald, who might come back. But Sigvald is now dueling the Warmaster Taur'ruk, the Bull Centaur, Very cool looking model on him. Obviously, both Centaurs do look a little bit different. That's just a repurposed Centaur model. But he looks super intimidating. And Sigvald is going to be able to chase him off. Gonna look at the battlefield again here. A lot of routing units. And what looked to be a very defensible, very strong defensive position is beginning to show signs of cracking. The Slaanesh horde continues moving inexorably forward, getting a nice rear charge into the back of these Infernal Guard. We're getting some point-blank shots off into the Marauders. But they'll be cut to pieces by all this armor piercing the great axes. The great weapons of the Slaanesh horde will carve them into ribbons. And now we pretty much have to focus on the unbreakable units. Oh my god. Gorgeous. Love that. That is so satisfying. Downhill charge into the back of that artillery crew. It wasn't going to be able to make much of an impact at this point anyway. Don't think they're going to be able to get back on their guns. But man, that was awesome. And the Chaos Knights and the Chaos Warriors have taken the hill. Going to be very tough for the Chaos Dwarfs to take it back from them at this point on Warpstone Mine. But the Gorebeast are not done yet. There are more units on the field to kill, more blood to spill in the name of, I guess, the Dark Prince, but really it's more Khorne's forte there. But they're going to get some very nice charges into these Chaos Dwarfs with great weapons, knocking them 30 feet and running them into the ground, pancaking them into oblivion. And there's just nothing on the field. Yes, the Gorebeast Chariot is very low at this point, but man, it has made such a big impact on the game. Almost 200 kills at this point, and we'll still, actually more than that, 240 now. Dang, that is a lot of killing from the Gorebeast in this one. Don't get to see that every day. Might be ugly as hell, but definitely made Slaanesh proud in this one, and it's still not done yet. Sigvald with his mirror shield and a blade forged from one of the shards of Slaanesh's own sword needs to teach Rykarth a lesson. Cut him down in size a little bit. I mean, he's already tiny, but I think he can afford to lose a few more inches at least. And this is where being surrounded by your own men and not being isolated helps lords and heroes out a lot. It's very important, as we're going to see Sigvald get a couple attacks into Taur'ruk the Warmaster and make him rout. He's wavering right now, and he should break or shatter pretty soon here. One more attack should do it. Yeah, he's gonna break here. But in this situation, Rykarth will have a really hard time damaging Sigvald because his attacks are area of effect, right? And will spread to all the other models, the Chaos Warriors that are surrounding him, only dealing a small portion of damage to Sigvald himself. But Rykarth is by himself, so as long as Sigvald's attack rolls to hit, as it were, that damage will go directly to him. So it's always good to have other units or heroes very close by when dueling, so that damage gets spread out and not focused on a single hero or lord. The Gorebeast is still having a fantastic time running over routing units. Again, just kind of padding stats at this point. The only thing left on the field are the two Rykarths the Unbreakable, which I actually just remembered. They brought two of them in this battle, so two Rykarths, two Unbreakable Lords to kill at the end of the game. And in the meantime, the Gorebeast will just be snacking on some Chaos Dwarfs in the back lines. So fun times there. First Rykarth is going to go down. We'll put it in a double fast forward and watch as the final Rykarth dies. And maybe get a couple more glorious cinematic shots of the Gorebeast doing its work. Again, not every day you get to see a Gorebeast make this kind of an impact on the battle. Such a fun unit to use when you can use it to its fullest potential. So Sigvald and his Mirror Guard, actually, a couple of them, the aspiring champions, waiting into melee as well. Couple more attacks, and Rykarth should go down to Sliver Slash. We're going to pop Flaming Sword of Ruin and Cascading Fire Cloak. And that should be enough to finish the battle. So, it was definitely a very fun battle. I was a little bit worried, honestly. Chaos Dwarfs were in a very nice defensive position. Yeah, he's going to go down here. Actually, he had the Slayer death animation there. That's interesting. But, yeah, so they had a very good defensive position. They had the Dreadquake, which did pretty well in this game. I think it got 100 kills. You can see the slaves did alright, but obviously nothing to write home about there. They're basically just meat shields. And the long shots didn't actually make that much of an impact on the battle, for Caillou at least. Deathstreakers did okay. Yeah, Dreadquake with 100 kills. Rykarth did very well. Black Orc Slaves were alright. But I really think they needed a unit of Bull Centaur Vendors if they wanted to deal with my Gorebeast Chariot and with my Chaos Knights. I think that Taur'ruk the Warmaster and the Bull Centaurs together can do work against enemy Cav if used properly. But without it, the Gorebeast Chariot and the Chaos Knights just did so much damage and basically carried the game. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I'll be bringing you some more content soon. Indie Pride, signing out for now.